Looks like everything is good to go. So, all right, here we are. Well, welcome everybody for watching my first episode of Night Talk. It kind of fits the name, J Night Talk. Kind of corny a little bit, but whatever. But I just wanted this is my first discussion series where I want to talk to y'all about certain topics while playing games. And why not have a topic or discussion while playing poker? And I'm gonna explain the reason why I actually play poker, because of course, it's gambling and everything and whatnot have you. But at least this is just virtual money. I'm not using my real money in this. But let's see. Hang on a second. Let me actually turn down the. There we go. And I'll explain to you why I play poker. Poker is one of those games, card table games, that I'll play just to clear my mind and just focus my thoughts on something else. Because if you think about it, poker is a really simple game if you know how to play, I should say. And for me, when I play it, it's like, okay, yeah, I know my hands and things of that nature and how I need to win and everything like that. And usually your strategy is always there because you know what hands you need to play and what hands you need and what they need to be on the table. And then if you don't see them, you can always fold and let the cards go, or you just see what you have and just go on with it. But and really the basics, and I wanted to discuss a little bit in not in very good detail of poker because I'm not really a poker expert. And reason poker, if you're a person that wants to play with like friends during like a game night or anything like that, uh, the basis behind poker really is depending on either, I would say, it really depends on the two cards that you have in your hand because essentially you need to determine. Let's like for example, this hand right now that I have a let's see, I have a seven of clubs and I have a ace of spades. Now, really, my saving grace is the ace. Now, if let's say, for example, if I had a straight, which is for this instance, it will be either an ace, two, three, four, five, or it will be a what is it? Either a 10, jack, king, queen, and an ace. That's really a straight. And then if I had cards of the same suit, that would be a flush. Straight flush will be basically like I said about the ace, ace one, two, three, and four, like that, or five, excuse me, and going there. A royal flush, like people would know, is basically cards of the same suit going through the actual straight, but is everything in the same suit. So it will be, let's say for the ace of spades, I had ace of spades with a king of spades, queen of spades, jack of spades, and ten of spades. That is a royal flush. That's the highest they could ever get. And then I, one day, on my, because I do have a Facebook page. What I'll do is I'll post a graphic of different poker hands on there so you can kind of see what I'm talking about and going from there. But this is not, I'm not having basically a discussion series just to talk about poker. That's besides the point. I'm just playing poker at the same time as having a discussion. But my main goal with this discussion series that I have is basically just I would blame my friends on this because they usually tell me that sometimes my logic on some things are just way out there. In some aspects, it's not. I'm not really going. It's not off the rails of what I think. There's some things that I think that I say and mention about that's through my thoughts that, and I want to end a discussion. It's like, well, that you know, you really do make a good point. And I was like, well, why not do this in a episodic way of making a discussion series? And the topic at hand that I really want to start with is basically relationships. And a lot of my friends um, tell me that with my relationships, it's really well, how I view relationships is really out there. Well, not really out there, but it's a little bit more inquisitive. I think, and I hate to say it, but the way I think about it and how I explain it makes more sense than anything. Um, and I hate to say it, but I kind of blame, of course, life and really three comedians, honestly. The one that had the biggest influence on me was the late Patrice O'Neal. If y'all know about Patrice, he was always the what a lot of people call him the relationship guru, and he knew a whole lot about relationships. And listening to him and his friend Dante Nero, who is also a comedian, you know, them bouncing off each other about how relationships are and different experiences, how men and women interact with each other, and how that dynamic always shifts back and forth. It's always interesting. And also, the last person I want to mention that kind of influences my thoughts a little bit too in this subject is Corey Holcomb. Yes, he does. He jokes a whole lot about how women are in a relationship, but at the same time, if you really think about it, the type of woman that you go after, you know, you need to expect a certain type of attitude coming from him, and that's really what he is saying in his commentary, uh, indirectly when it comes down to some of his acts when he talks about relationships. But in a sense, it's really true because of what he's talking about. And that's really who really kind of got me thinking. Those are the three main people that got me thinking about relationships more in depth, I should say. And then, you know, of course, through life experiences of different relationships I've been in and everything. So it kind of, you know, morphed my own meta thinking on relationships and how I view them and how things would go. And that's really the biggest basis of what this episode is going to be about is my view on relationships. And the first topic I got written down here, I actually have a notepad in front of me, is that 50-50 relationships are a myth. They do not exist. They will never ever exist. If you run, I don't care who's listening right now. It could be in your relationship, it could be in a friend's relationship that you know of great years, saying that, oh, me and my boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife or partner, whoever it is, say we have a good 50-50 relationship. If somebody says that, that means they're in a horrible relationship, and I'll tell you why. You can never give equally to another with. It's always 60-40, 35, 60-40, 35-65. It's always like that. It will never ever be a 50-50 relationship because there's always somebody in it that's going to give more into the relationship than the other. And sometimes that's different aspects of the relationship. For example, me and another girl, we're in a relationship, and she doesn't really travel that much, and She doesn't travel. She doesn't go to different places. Like she loves art, but she's never been to like a museum. She's been to a museum to look at art, but she's never been to one of those wine and art events in certain cities that have them where you'll go to. And let's see. And she loves nature. She likes to go kayaking, but she only has done it every now and then. It's been a while, and life has taken over and stuff like that. So, in that aspect of being entertained in a relationship, she has no, I would say, control over that aspect of it. It will always be dependent on that guy. Or, for example, let's say I put myself in it. It will always be dependent on me to show her a good time as far as what her interests are in. And that's really what that is. Meaning that that's where the dominance comes into a relationship. And nobody's dominant in a relationship. Somebody always is dominant in certain aspects of a relationship, but not everything. That's just one aspect of a relationship that I'm touching on. Now, she could be dominant in a relationship as far as advice, life advice, I should say. Let's say, for example, I'm having a little bit of trouble with, let's say, student loans or something like that, or a debt, and I'm going about it the wrong way. I'm like, well, crap, man. Like, I'm throwing all this money into this particular amount of debt, and I'm looking at my account at the end or the beginning of the month, or I'm paying my rent. I don't got that much money. I'm like, crap, and I really want to get a new car, but I can't save as much money as I want. So she could have that certain amount of experience. Like, oh yeah, I've been in debt like that before. And I feel like, it's like maybe you should go about it in this aspect instead of like doing this. Because why would you try to pay the full thing instead of you could just go in it piecemeal? Let's say you get paid twice a month. You pay half of that bill now and the other half later, and then you'll be fine. Some people don't think about that and just pay the whole bill and just be messed up for the rest of the month. I mean, that could help that me, let's say for example, in that situation, to at least manage my money better, and at the same time paying that bill off so I can actually afford, let's say I need to get a new car or new tires and something that's very important. But that's what it is. Even though kind of skipping points, but that really leads into another point that I have, is that experiences between couples, they're never going to align with each other. Everybody's experiences in life in general are different. And the only reason I bring this up because me and a friend of mine was having this discussion last week, and they were talking about that they I don't know where this line of thought came from, but it was, I'm trying to paraphrase it, that they wanted to be with somebody that has similar to the same experiences, so they know how to basically so they can like deal with certain aspects of what's going on with each other, and they can grow. And honestly, in my head, that doesn't seem right. And I told her that, look, you cannot be in a relationship where you both have the same experiences, because, or going through the same things, because honestly, if you're both, let me say this for example. Let's say two people are walking, they fall in quicksand, right? So they're trying to figure out how to get out of the quicksand, but there's nothing to grab onto. You think about ideas, but at the same time, you can't complain or fuss at the other person about being in quicksand, because both of y'all are in quicksand. And that's like with the relationship. You cannot be in the same and similar position as the other person, because honestly, you can give each other bad advice to a degree, or the relationship won't go anywhere. Like there's no dynamic, there's nothing, there's no growth. There's no growth in that relationship. In my opinion, that's how I feel that how it would go. Now, let's throw it on the other side. That how what I told her. I told her that, well, you can be in a relationship with somebody that kind of had the same experiences as you, but at the same time, they can't be in, they would have already have been through it first. Then they can actually give you advice on how to get out of it. And that's what I told her. For like, for example, well, let's say I'm just throwing an example, it's not 100% true, but let's say, for example, she had trouble with like getting something done, as far as like in a, shoot, let me see, what would be a perfect example, like a job. Let's say, for example, she wanted a particular type of job that she wanted, excuse me, and she is always wondering, why, how come I can't, get myself into this job. And let's say I've been through a similar experiences as her, but I was able to overcome that. That's where it comes in, where the person that probably that's been through that experience, that could actually help that person. Because in a relationship, think about it, you're there to elevate each other. That's how it always goes. You can't be in the same position and try to elevate each other, because you're pushing each other in the air at the same, not really at the same level, but you're pushing each other up, and you can't really go anywhere. You're in a pit. And that's why I feel like experiences between couples have to have a certain level of difference in it. I would say at the most, when it comes down to, in my opinion, the experiences you have between you and your significant other, it should never go beyond 40% similar experiences. And I say it this way because of the point that I was making earlier, is that you could have gone through an experience similar to that person, but you were able to conquer and overcome it, and you can actually give that person good solid advice of how to get out of it. But at the same time, you could be going through a certain experience that you don't know how to get out of. You're in a rut. You're like, well, dang, I don't know how to get out of this. But at the same time, that person is looking from a different perspective, which is not yours. And they're looking from the outside in, and they can actually give you some advice, like, well, maybe you're going about this the wrong way. Maybe you should do X, Y, and Z instead of JKL. And you're like, huh. And then you think about it, you ponder about it, then you're like, well, maybe I should do it that way. And then once you've done it and everything is hunky dory, then you're like, wow, I didn't realize you, from a different point of view, helped me out in this situation. And I feel like that's really perfect right there when it comes down to a relationship. Let's see, and another point I want to make too is the nice guy effect. And I hate to say it, but I was the guy all the way up until college, I want to say, that I was the nice guy. I was the guy that everybody knew that I was so nice. Uh, um, I was the guy that used to walk girls back to their dorm. I had no intention of doing anything or with them or whatever. Like, I was the guy that wanted to do the relationship thing and all that. Which, I mean, I still want to be in a relationship with people, but it was just that I was just a nice person. And the thing is, when it comes down to women, women do not like nice guys or yes dear guys. Only because, I'll explain it in twofold. That the first point I want to make is the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde effect. Everybody knows the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Now, put imagine that in your head and then push it into a relationship. Now, say for example, I'm talking to the ladies first. Ladies, you ever run into a guy, I don't care where you go to, and he is a nice guy, y'all talk. Let's say y'all meet in the bar. He doesn't order you a drink unless unless he offers to do whatever, and he has no intention of doing nothing with you and everything seems fine. Y'all get in a relationship and y'all getting, it's fine. Y'all hang out for a little bit. You go on a couple of dates. You decide the relationship. Everything is cool except for this man has a flaw. Like, you know, his apartment is like abominable. Everything's everywhere. His bills ain't, he ain't really caught up with his bills is or whatever, or he's just a crazy guy, or something like that. There's always something about a nice person to a degree. And we could flip it to females. We could run into a woman that's real nice and kind and everything. Take them out on a few dates. Everything seems fine, but there could be an instance where she just turns into the Wicked Witch of the West, and you're like, well, how? Like, who are you? Like, who are you right now? Because I don't know who you are. You were this nice person that I was trying to be with, and you just turned out to be just such a evil person. It's time for me to go. And that and just relating for the ladies out there, for me hitting the point of the nice guy effect, is that's what they don't want. And I'm relating to both guys and girls. The guys need to listen to this, and the girls, this is what the point I'm trying to touch on, why y'all don't mess with nice guys. Now, fellas, when it comes down to that, you have to be, in my experience, nice up until a point, because, and this is touching on the other side of the nice guy effect. If you're way too nice, that means in a woman's mind that you're too much of a pushover. Like, for example, she can basically, if she's that type of woman, she could manipulate you into doing whatever she wants, spending all your money, and she's happy, but you're not completely happy. Like, you're making, like, you will have this mirage over your eyes, saying, "Oh, if she's happy, I'm happy." It's like, no, no, that's BS. Like, you have to be happy at a different level than her happy. You cannot have the same equal level of happiness. That's where it comes down to the 50-50 in relationships. Like, and just to get on to that point, that means, for example, if she feel like you're too much of a pushover, she doesn't want to be with you anymore. That means she will just kick you out of a relationship and go with somebody else, because she wants a man. At the end of the day, women want a man. A man that's honest, that can be nice to a fault, that can be stern when he believes in something, and strong. A strong man. That's what they want. A man wants a woman with support. As long as you support me and what I do to a certain degree, that's how we are when it comes down to relationships. It's like, I don't care anything else. Will you support me, woman? Yes, no, maybe so, whatever. And that's really what it is when it comes down to the nice guy effect. And they don't want that. They never want that. They want somebody strong. And the other point that I want to bring up that I didn't write down, and I'm gonna write down now, is the chasing effect. Write that now. Chasing effect. And the point of what I mean about the chasing effect never works in the person's favor who is doing the chasing. And now let me explain that a little bit. Now, as much as people's like, oh, you got to chase you got to chase your man, or you got to chase your woman, the person that you're chasing is going down let's say for example, I'm gonna put. I always love my analogies. Let's say you got a a Honda Civic, and you see this bad looking Lamborghini, and you really want to catch up to it to see the insides of it, the rims, and get a good look at it and say, "Oh yeah, I recognize that model. That's the Haran or or whatever you're looking at." But it's on the highway and it's doing 180 miles an hour or 200 miles an hour on the highway. Your Honda Civic only goes up to 160. You cannot do the chasing when you know good and well that that car is going too fast for you. And this is why, and this is trying to relate this to women. I'm speaking to the guy. Now, you cannot chase a woman that's trying to do similar chasing because she's trying to go faster than you to find the perfect man. Because if both of y'all are chasing and y'all chasing each other, it's not going to work out for you. You have to go back to the car analogy. Instead of going and trying to chase the car down the highway to look at it, that's why you need to go to a car show or you go to the dealership. You take a look at the car, you see the price tag, you look at your own bank account to say, hey, maybe I can afford to have this car and this and that and the other. Now, let's relate this to women. I don't want to say women or cars, but the analogy is too perfect. You go to you go to an area where you want a particular type of woman. Same thing with girls. So I'm trying to make it as unisex as possible. You go somewhere where you're trying to meet this type of person. You see kind of what they're about in that particular atmosphere, and you're trying to see if you're willing to go and take them for a test drive. Now, once you've done that, I'll say test drive if you want to put it the analogies into actual what I'm talking about. Your test drives are your you're testing that person to see who they are. And that's why I always say when it comes down to me, I'm relating myself into this situation. You should be able to have a conversation with that person in the first couple of dates to determine what type of person that you're trying to deal with. Now, what they're about is what you want to deal with. Then you go ahead and just say, hey, I want to opt in into your program. I want to see what you're all about. I want to see if your program can help elevate mine, so we together become a better person. Because if your program elevates me, I want to make sure I'm gonna elevate you, and that's how relationships go. And if you can't determine that, or let's say if you can't determine that, and or the person that you're talking to, you could tell that's not the type of person you need to be with that elevates you, it is time to push away from the table, take your cars and your chips, just like this game I'm playing right now, and go home. Because there is no point to being at a table and you cannot play the game because you're going to make it that much more difficult for yourself. And that's why I hate doing the chasing effect. Because that's why I don't chase anybody. I really don't. I'm just the person that just goes around and just does him, or I just do me because I'm not the person that's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go with this person and everything and blah blah blah. I'm gonna take this person down. But it's not essential because at the stage of my life, I'm 28 years old, and I feel like I'm old. I'm old now because a lot of people, oh, you're young, and all. No, I'm getting old. I'm 2 years away from being 30. I'm almost middle aged now, and that's so scary. And really, when you're this age in a stage of life, you innately, because you're a human being, you feel like you really need to do a lot of stuff for yourself. And once you start doing stuff for yourself, then you'll be able to do it. And that's my other point I need to write down is self-worth, and then relating it to relationships. So I'm write that down. Now I'm gonna treat this as like a twofold thing when it comes down to self-worth. Now, when it comes down to self-worth, if you can't determine your own self-worth, and then you want to try to be in a relationship, you should do not pass go, do not collect $200, go straight to jail, to your own personal jail, and find out what your self-worth is, because if you cannot determine that, there is no way in the world you can be in a relationship with somebody else. You will be the ruin of that relationship. Point blank, period. Now, once you've determined your own self-worth, then you'll be able to be in a relationship with somebody in the aspects of, hey, I can actually, I'm this type of person and whatever. And it comes down to actually the real point when it comes down to self-worth is confidence. A woman and a man love somebody with confidence in themselves. And that's where the self-worth comes in, because self-worth creates confidence. If you don't have that, people can sniff that out just like a police dog trying to sniff cocaine, heroin, marijuana, whatever. And they'll be like, you are the type of person I need to be with. Goodbye. And he'd be like, no, wait a minute, come back. I can change myself. Like, no. If somebody says, I'm going to change myself, and you're getting out of a relationship, that means they only want to change themselves just to be in a relationship with that person. And that's going to create a toxic relationship. That's why I kind of feel like when you're getting out of a relationship with somebody, I don't care how long it is, you need to have a decompression time from any contact from the opposite sex, just so you can get yourself together and to a point of like, okay, the feelings I had with this other person, excuse me, is gone. And I feel like I'm ready to elevate myself with somebody else. Then you can move forward, because once you can't do that, it's whatever. And that's when it comes down to self-worth, because number one, you're kind of beaten down when it comes down to after relationship, and you don't have that confidence and that swagger to go back in. So I kind of feel like if you're trying to, when you get out of a relationship and then after a while you go and mess with somebody else or have somebody else on the sideline, really, you're really only doing that just to satisfy what you had in that relationship. I don't care if it's just like satisfying yourself sexually, or just having somebody there because you don't like to be by yourself, or anything that comes down to that aspect. Because honestly, you just need to have time for yourself to realize that, look, I'm cool, I'm all right. And that's like one of the really good points that I've learned, um, basically just listening to like Patrice's stuff, that's still out there on the internet, is that and that's another point when it comes down to this is point number 7. How much are you willing to give the other person? Or I could put this: how much of a percent of you are you willing to give? Now, if you're in a relationship and that person says, I'm willing to give 150% of themselves to you, you should not be in that relationship. Because, for example, let's say, I mean, everybody's going to die eventually. Let's say, for example, you're in the military, you go to war, and you die. That means that person committed 150% of themselves to you. Now that you're gone, how much do they have for themselves? Zero. That means that person's gonna will and die on their own and whatever. They're not gonna be able to live. You can never give away that much. I would say, me personally, you should only give about 80% of yourself to a person. That's only because if you would end up in a relationship goes bad or whatever, you can build yourself back up to 100%. And that's where, and that kind of circles back to the 50-50 relationships, because you really cannot do that to yourself, because you're digging your own grave, basically. You really cannot do that. But that's just my opinion or whatever. So I mean, I mean, do what you want. I shouldn't say I don't care, but I mean, you're just basically doing what you want. Like right now, I'm doing what I want, and I'm about to lose all my chips. um, Surprising, but yeah. Well, let me go over all my points that I went over. 50-50, excuse me, in relationships are a myth, and that's correct. Me personally, if somebody says that later on, because I'm actually gonna look at the comments below, because I know this is a live stream, but after it's up, it's just gonna be permanently on my channel. And I encourage y'all, please comment below on the videos, and it could be a topic that y'all it could be a topic, it could be a continuation of the topic that I have in this particular episode, and that's something that you want me to touch on to get a little bit more clarity, or it could be a question about something, and I can do my best to put my 2 cents into it and see if it makes sense to you. Because technically speaking, I'm only doing this. It's almost like self therapy, but at the same time, I really like helping people. I kind of feel like this is just touching me personally. I kind of feel like having a discussion really touches on my purpose of helping people. I kind of feel like I'm on this earth to help people. And I feel like this is one thing I can do. And I really want to do this more often. Okay, now that I got that out the way, I'm going to go through my points. The 50-50 relationships, nice guy myth, touched on that. Nobody likes that. Experiences between couples, yep, should never be the same. Always should be different. The chasing effect, something I just threw in the air. The self-worth and relationships. Let me touch on that again, just briefly. Self-worth equals level of confidence, and it boosts your relationship. If your self-worth is low, it's not going to boost the relationship. It's like stocks. You buy opposite effect. You buy high, and if it's low, you sell low. That's when it comes down to a relationship. And and also the last point is the percentage that you're willing to give to the other person when you're in a relationship. Like I said before, and I'll say it again. For me personally, I will only give at the most 80% of myself to a person. Only because if inevitability happens and the relationship goes south, I have the option to have 20% for myself to rebuild myself back to 100%, and then probably dial that number back to 30, 35, because depending on the experience, I am not going to try and do that again. The amount of percent that I actually gave to that person, because leaves a bad taste in my mouth. Also, well, let's see. Like I said again, please comment below on if there's a continuation you want me to talk about when it comes down to this particular topic, and I'll touch base on it when I look back on it when I get the chance, and I'll make sure to do some more posts on my Facebook page. And yeah, I think this is going to be the end of the episode. So there you go. My name is Jay Knight, and thank you for listening to my first episode of Night Talk. And I'll be back on here later to talk to y'all again. Take it easy and have a good day.